The development of the Main Street Economic Development Strategy, which is in its final stages, and that strategy is being led by our guest speaker, Kevin Dwarka. These efforts and plans are laying the foundation for the revitalization of the city of Poughkeepsie, arguably the most important city in the Hudson Valley region, and I'd suggest the city with the greatest potential north of Manhattan in the state of New York. We are pleased to have with us Kevin Dwarka. Kevin is a land use and economic consultant specializing in urban revitalization. He's a senior fellow at Pace's Land Use Law Center and teaches land use at NYU. Has also taught urban economic development at the City University of New York and Israeli politics at Yeshiva University. His dissertation at Hebrew University in Jerusalem examined the use of global capital and public-private partnerships for financing light rail projects in Israel, the United Kingdom, and the United States. He received his BA from Columbia University, JD from Pace Law School, Masters of City Planning from UC Berkeley, and a PhD from Hebrew University. Kevin is admitted to practice before the New York State Bar and serves on the New York State or the New York City Bar Association's Housing and Urban Development Committee. He also serves on the board of the New York chapter of the Congress for New Urbanism. Ladies and gentlemen, we're grateful that Kevin has taken his time to invest in our city and work with us over the last few years, and we're grateful that he is here with us this morning. Please welcome Kevin Dwarka.
Thanks, Ron, for the introduction. I hail from Brooklyn, although I spend a good amount of my time in Poughkeepsie. In fact, I spend a lot of time just upstairs here in this great hotel while walking the streets and meeting with different agencies. And how exciting to be in a time of comeback, as Mark had mentioned. I myself am originally from Detroit, Michigan. My dad is a physician. And one of the transitions that happened while I was growing up was that the city of Detroit slowly but surely began to dig itself out of decades of disinvestment and loss of private capital and reductions in population and employment. Detroit is the motor city, but it might surprise you that the largest employer in Detroit is not a car company, but the medical industry. An industry which is so critical to the revitalization of our cities, including Poughkeepsie's, which is why I'm so excited by the expansion of this facility within the city of Poughkeepsie. I think it has far-reaching potential, not only to stimulate economic development benefits for the city and the region, but also to help us rebuild the urban fabric in this city through our central business districts along our waterfront. And today, I'm going to talk with you about the planning work that I've been involved in, the planning work that other groups have been involved in over the past few years to help create a city which is more economically sustainable, but also a healthier city, just as the hospital does. What do I mean by healthy? Well, a healthy city is a walkable city, a place that you can get around, a place where people want to go from place to meet friends, to spend money, to go to restaurants, to live, to work, and to play. And Poughkeepsie has so much potential to be a thriving, walkable city. And all of the initiatives, believe it or not, that are going on in the city of Poughkeepsie are fixed on improving the pedestrian quality of life in the city. And I will walk you through literally how these different investments are bringing us forward. I want to start by describing what our assets are. What do we have going for us? You've got an incredible train station, right? And it's not just any train station, it's the terminus of the Metro North Hudson line. It's also served by Amtrak. Architecturally, it's a beautiful station. But moreover, your station is right on the waterfront, and it is also at the base of Main Street. So there is an opportunity here to capture an incredible number of walkers, precisely because people are going and coming along the train outside of an automobile. Then here is your waterfront, Warriors Park, which right now is in a state of transition and planning, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. But even right now, this offers a wonderful way of accessing your riverfront. So many cities have suffered because their riverfront is completely inaccessible. but you've got a waterfront that you can get to, that you can walk alongside, and with that ability comes tremendous potential. Your neighborhoods, including the Mount Carmel district, or what we're calling it now, Little Italy, are fabulous collections of people who care about the city, interact with each other, contribute to the local economy, support businesses, and have a unique history. And as someone who has spent a lot of time in these neighborhoods, it is very clear that your citizens of this city care a lot about making it better. And then there's Main Street, a Main Street in your downtown, which for all of its problems, still remains a walkable place, a place for chance encounters, a place to go to dinner, a place to grab a drink, a place to buy and purchase things. It's got a ways to go, and we're going to talk about that today. But these are all different assets you have contributing to your overall walkability. Oops, skipped one here. And then lastly, you've got your historic buildings. This is the underwear factory that Hudson River Housing is in the process of converting into a mixed-use building that would provide a site for entrepreneurship and live workspaces. This is a great example of the rich historical housing stock and industrial stock that you've got in the city and its potential to be converted into more productive uses. And alongside all those other opportunities that you've got the building blocks for change. Having said all that, you've also got some challenges. And I want to show you some of the challenges here in the sites of underutilization and vacancy, not to create a negative story about the city or to broadcast its weaknesses, but because only if we actually walk through the hard parts of the city do we fully understand what we need to do to fix them and to appreciate what is currently going on in terms of their resolution. Let's start with this fabulous waterfront. Surrounding your train station is surface parking. And if you think about it, that undermines the walkability of the train station because you come out of the train station and how do you know where to go to next? But I also ask you to look at this train station and the underutilization surrounding it from a fiscal perspective. This is all developable land that could help to increase the tax base of this city, and it should be done, right? It's here, and it is in a position to be assembled and to be carried forward. You get off the fabulous walkway, right? Which is, I think, in many ways our pride and joy, with an annual visitation of over 500,000 people. And then you come off of the walkway and you enter into a desolate industrial landscape. There are all of these people who are coming to the city of Poughkeepsie and they have wallets with them. And I can't help but think, what would it be like if we gave them an opportunity to dig into their pockets, grab the wallets, and spend money? How can they get to other parts of the city and be part of our overall investment strategy? 500,000 annual visitors, that's a huge market from my perspective. Our neighborhoods, and as wonderful and historic as they are, many of them continue to reel from the effects of the recession, foreclosures, and vacancies in the city. This is something we're continuing to grapple with. And then there's our Main Street. And this is where I came into the city, and I was engaged to look at opportunities for addressing clusters of vacancy in the city. How could we bring different parcels together and work on a redevelopment strategy to reduce the blight, to reduce the volume of distressed properties? And I know this probably won't surprise many of you in the room, but where I found the greatest concentration of vacancy and distress was in your downtown along your Main Street corridor. And when I say concentrations of distress, that's another way of saying opportunities for change. Those are places where we can reactivate the city's economic development potential by transforming their use. They are not in a good situation right now, and so let me take you on a little short walk of what we see in terms of vacancy along our Main Street. Lots that are completely empty and undeveloped, places where the ground retail is empty or vacant in many of the spaces. Even if your upper stories are doing well, the absence of retail functioning in the bottom or the difficulty of property owners to secure that diversity of retail that residents need. Sometimes the retail on the bottom is doing fine, but for many, many years, the upper stories are vacant. And again, this is a tremendous lost economic opportunity. And so what we did to move this forward was we mapped it all out. This is what planners do. This is our form of surgery. We identified all of the opportunities, all of the liabilities, what was going on. And what we saw was that there was actually quite a bit going on, that in terms of the assets of the city, some of these of which I've already mentioned, we've had some successful redevelopment projects. We've got the walkable compact urban form. We've got the access to the train station. Everything in blue here is an asset. And then we looked at some of the challenges we've got, which are in red, which are the commercial vacancies and the nodes of crime at Main and Academy, upper story vacancies. And then we looked at some of the initiatives that were already underway, the planning on the waterfront, some great work that has been done by Hudson River Housing in the Middle Main area. And we realized there's a gap. Nothing was going on in the Central Business District. And the Central Business District is the heart of your city. And we thought to ourselves, what if we had one unified Main Street economic development strategy that could tie together all of these great initiatives and funnel everything towards one unified program and agenda for improving the overall quality of life and the economic vitality of the city. And as part of that, we saw the three initiatives that all needed to be unified together as being the walkway, the waterfront, and Main Street. And what I'm going to do now is take you through each of those initiatives, not getting too deep into all the technical details, which I love to talk about, and you're welcome to call me anytime, and I will talk your ear off about all of the details. But today I just want to paint the broader picture so you can at least feel reassured that we are really not just talking when we talk about revitalization. There are concrete steps that are going forward, have already gone forward right now. So let's start with the walkway, which, as many of you know, opened up in 2009. And as I mentioned, there was all of this uncaptured market potential. And many of the partners associated with the walkway, including the nonprofit organization charged with its ongoing operation and maintenance, and Scenic Hudson and Dutchess Counties, Chamber of Commerce, Regional Division, and Ulster County, partnered together and realized that they needed to create a way for people to know how to get around the city. And so they developed this wonderful map that helps to rebrand parts of the city, like its Little Italy or its Union Street neighborhood or its downtown and its waterfront, so that as people were using the walkway and getting off of it, they would have an understanding that City of Poughkeepsie was not just a city, but it was a network of connected destinations, so that when you do get off the walkway, you have a way of moving around. And many of you have probably seen this map. There are destination signs that have been set up in parts of the city. And I think it is a good step toward the possibility of rebranding Poughkeepsie. But more than that just happened. It wasn't just rebranding. The City of Poughkeepsie rezoned the lands that were at the terminus of the walkway on the Poughkeepsie side. This is the Gateway Rezoning Project along Parker Avenue. And the image you're looking at is an illustrative of what it would be like once these uses are able to be transformed into a greater mix of mixed-use development with mixed-use restaurants and commercial areas and housing, so that this whole district, when you come off the walkway, could be activated. There are industrial uses there that are obsolete. There are industrial uses there that are doing fine. None of them are being displaced. This is a long-term strategy for ensuring the economic productivity of the walkway area. And I have to emphasize, it's all walkable, right? The design and the format in which this rezoning was done was in order to ensure that as people got off the walkway, they could keep on walking. This is an illustrative of the waterfront project, a project which was long in coming in terms of its planning. And here I want to emphasize a couple of things, both its environmental as well as its economic benefits. The image that you're looking at is a plan view of a transit-oriented development project. whereby all of those vacant surface parking areas that I showed you earlier in the presentation, they would be reactivated to provide multifamily housing, to provide hotel space, to provide retail. And what would happen when you came out of this train station is that you would essentially be in an extension of the downtown district. Now, why do I say that? I say that because I know that one of the tensions surrounding the waterfront has been, well, what should come first, the revitalization of the waterfront or the revitalization of Main Street? Their fates are interlinked. They are so tied to each other because they are physically proximate to each other. So intensifying the land uses around the train station, bringing in more economic productivity, a higher and better use of this land is good for your waterfront in tandem with a host of park improvements and changes, but it's also good for your downtown. Now, I mentioned the environmental component, and why do I say that? The more you have people living and working within a quarter-mile radius of a rail station, the greater chance you have for reducing suburban sprawl, the loss of open space, and reducing your overall carbon footprint. If there's anywhere where development should be going today, it should be going in our cities, especially our cities that have got strong bones, strong rail infrastructure. Poughkeepsie's got that. If you're going to expand your housing stock, if you're going to expand mixed-use development, right around this train station is the place to do it. Now, if we go to the next slide here, I just want to show you a few before and afters of what will happen once the train station area is built out. The first image in the upper left-hand corner is the view from the station area looking out at the Hudson River. And then if you look down from the station overlook, you can see the way in which the urban design has been developed to ensure the visual access from the train station down into the Hudson River, sloping down in a terracing effect with development flanking on it, while at the same time preserving the use of the waterfront for recreational uses. Then if you look at the image on the upper right-hand corner, that's Water Street today, and you can see the degree to which Water Street just isn't such a great place to be today. But if you look below, the vision for it would be that it would be a teeming mixed-use district, all of which would just be a couple minutes walk away from the train station. I'm going to move on now to the Main Street project. And the first gestation of this project was called the City Center Revitalization Plan. It was very conceptual at this particular stage. We basically looked at the transportation infrastructure of the city and thought to ourselves, how can we improve the transportation infrastructure in order to enhance access and mobility in the city of Poughkeepsie in order to advance economic development? That was our goal. And we came up with 5 very general concepts for enhancing transportation infrastructure. We went to the Common Council. They were very enthusiastic. They gave us the green light and said, great, go forward, continue to try and develop these concepts. And so for the past year, that is what we've been doing, trying to translate very, very broad conceptual concepts into a detailed program of action. And I will now walk you through specifically what we're hoping to do through this study, which is winding its way up. At the end of the month, we'll be fully complete with it. This is sort of just the list of different interventions that I'm going to go through. They include transit and land use and economic development proposals. And moving into the details now, the very first one is fixing the transit system by providing a high-quality, high-performance Main Street bus service between the waterfront and Arlington, serving our city at 15 to 20-minute frequencies at defined stops along Main Street that serve as points and nodes for gathering as well as economic development. We've fleshed out the routing for this, the operational plan for this. We are aware of the costs and the interagency coordination that is going to be required to make something like this happen. But I believe that if you are able to get your transit system functioning, and it doesn't function now, but if we can start by fixing Main Street's bus service, we have great potential to support those residents and businesses along this corridor, as well as capture a lot of economic activity that is getting off board at the train station. Secondly, Market Street. Market Street, as you know, is one way, and for years we've explored possibilities of A, converting Market Street back to two-way, and B, making Market Street more pedestrian friendly. And so one of the initiatives that we've done is we've explored technically what would it take to convert Market Street back to two-way and make it a complete street, a street that would be safer for all users, for transit riders, for pedestrians, for bicyclists. And in the image you're showing, that you're seeing here now, it shows you how the right-of-way would be reallocated in terms of the lanes to better accommodate all users. We are not going forward in this plan without closely coordinating with everyone on the street, from this hotel to the Civic Center to the Bardavon to the county. This is definitely a project that requires partnership, collaboration, and conversation. I'm also happy to say that a year ago we applied for funding from NYSERDA in the amount of $250,000 to fund the implementation of this particular initiative, and it has been awarded. So there is good news that this is something that will not just remain as an idea on a piece of paper, but go forward. We also explored the possibility of dealing with one of the most hazardous points in the city's circulation system. This right here is where we are sitting right now, right? This is the Grand Hotel. This is Market Street. And this, where my red dot is going now, is our vision of the westbound arterial Mill Street for the future, whereby it would be transformed at Columbus into a T intersection. Why? Because that is one of the most hazardous points in the city, as westbound moving traffic races for its life to get in the right lane, either the lane to get on the bridge or the lane to get on Main Street. This is so not your fault. For years, I believe the city of Poughkeepsie has been lobbying in their own way to try and get New York State DOT to improve the circulation system that is for the people of Poughkeepsie and for its economy. And it hasn't happened, but it has to happen. And so with the help of Scenic Hudson, we were able to generate this illustrative drawing because we found ourselves going into meetings with New York State DOT without a vision. And we wanted to show them, look, if we can fix the hazards of this intersection operationally, improve it for pedestrians and drivers, we've not only achieved something from a transportation perspective, we've also begun the process of stitching the city's neighborhoods back to its downtown. Years ago, the creation of those arterials was considered a best practice in urban planning because it allowed for the flow of vehicles to outlying job centers. What we know now, and Mark hit the nail on the head in talking about the future is in our cities and their comeback, is that vitality needs to begin at home, in the center, in the heart of the city. We should not have a central business district that is walled off from our surrounding neighborhoods. And our streets are not traffic sewers. They are not funnels for cars to get from one part of the region to the other. They are points of connection for people to come to the central business district, to the city, to the neighborhoods, and to engage in economically productive activity. This, I believe, is going to be one critical step toward moving that process forward. We also did an in-depth examination of the city's zoning code. And I will not bore you with all of the details, but in order to make downtown, the central business district, more walkable, more transit-oriented, some changes need to be made to that zoning code, especially with regard to parking policy and urban design, and as well as the inclusion of affordable housing. We are very aware that as the city progresses, it needs to remain a place that is accessible and affordable to those of all income users. Your zoning code is a powerful instrument for maintaining that diversity, but at the same time, being able to be used in order to maximize walkability and really help to make the district function as a transit-oriented district. From an economic development perspective, a job creation perspective, again, so exciting to see the job development that will be coming out of Vassar, because that will have an effect on your housing market, on the performance of your business centers. We also see other opportunities in the city of Poughkeepsie, including your surface parking lots that are just south of Main Street. And that's in the far right image. You can see that more than 60% of the land use south of Main Street in the heart of your central business district is basically undeveloped space allocated to parking. This is prime real estate. This is a place that should be the site of flourishing business development, a place of innovation and entrepreneurship, partnerships with our anchor institutions, our hospital with Marist, with Vassar. We can really capture the talent that every year is coming out of schools like Vassar and Marist and retain them, support and stimulate their entrepreneurship. And we have got the land to do it and translate this land into a positive flow of tax revenue. How do we do that? Well, we're going to need some infrastructure, including a planning and economic development department within the city of Poughkeepsie that can help shepherd that process and bring all of the players together. That's what we think would be the most valuable economic development program for your central business district, putting the B back in CBD. And then finally, I can't tell you how many meetings I attended where I showed them images of the infrastructural and the land use changes and was told flat out, you know what, Kevin, all of this sounds nice, but until you make the city of Poughkeepsie cleaner and safer, it's just not going to work, right? And I would agree. I believe that there are non-infrastructural solutions here that need to be explored. One of them is the formation of a fully formed merchants association from Arlington to the waterfront. Business improvement districts in many cities are very powerful in terms of being able to get the job done in partnership with the city to make sure that streets are safe and clean. I would also say that when we look at the crime statistics in Poughkeepsie, and we've got to, we see that the concentration of crime is along our Main Street corridor, and yet we do not have a dedicated police beat on the Main Street corridor. There needs to be one there, 24 hours, 7 days a week, to ensure that Main Street is not a place for drug transactions and for crime and for larceny. Main Street's a place to live, to work, and to play. Finally, I just want to talk about sort of what we've identified as now being at the tail end of our planning efforts, where we see sort of 4 ways of going forward to make sure that we can implement all of these ideas. First and foremost, funding. And we are right now on the cusp of some very exciting opportunities from Albany with regard to funding for urban revitalization. Pace's Land Use Law Center, including myself, will be authoring the City of Poughkeepsie's applications for funding in that round that are due at the end of July. And we will be translating a lot of these ideas here into formal programs of action, seeking that capital financing. Leadership is so key, and I have to say we would not have been able to get through these planning concepts without the leadership from the county, from the city, from the Common Council, from the organizations. Those people were key toward making the planning here actually happen. Partnership is really important. Let me give you a few examples. The transit system is a great opportunity for partnership and collaboration between the city and county to pool resources together to ensure a high-quality transit system. The same is true for many components here, updating the zoning code, furthering redevelopment, bringing in the business community. The city and the county have the same interest in Poughkeepsie, which is to revitalize it. And the greater partnership we can have, also with the private sector, all of us working together, the more we can get done. And finally, I just want to close and say, as Mark had mentioned earlier, the value of community. When we host community meetings about the Main Street Economic Development Strategy, your residents come out in droves, and they call us at our offices. The conversation does not stop at those meetings. That is a tremendous asset, and I do think that the importance of including your residents, your neighborhood associations, your nonprofit organizations as part of that dialogue is key, because while it may sometimes seem as though a lot of public involvement hampers or slows down a system, it also is exactly the process that can make sure that we are all accountable, that the process does go forward, and that we have the widest range of stakeholders and partners moving in lockstep, piece by piece, toward a more walkable, a healthier, economically robust city of Poughkeepsie. And thank you for your time.